All right, so welcome everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I really do appreciate it. Today, it is my honor to have a dear friend on the channel with me. This is Louis Gallo. He happens to be a coworker at the school that we both teach at. And today, we're going to be discussing some of his favorite types of incense. And I'm sure many of these I've also had the opportunity to try as well, right? Because you've shared a bunch of them with me, right, Louis?
That is correct, and thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. And of course, incense is used for spiritual reasons, it's used for meditative reasons, it's used for many, many reasons, and we can't even begin to scratch the surface. But today we'll be talking about some of your favorite types, and here I'm going to try to pick up my little apparatus here. I'm actually currently lighting Nag Champa incense, so thank you so much for gifting that to me.
Oh, you are quite welcome.
So tell us a little bit about it. Maybe should we discuss what the different types of incense are? Because I know when I was growing up, my mother would always use the sticks and cones, but obviously we have several different types, right? We have the bakur and we have the loose resin. So what are some of the different types of incense?
Well, first, I would like to thank you for that warm welcome. And yes, that's from a corny man. That's a pun. Since we're talking about incense, which is hot, I wanted to thank you for that warm welcome, of course.
Oh, you're welcome. Of course.
Yeah, there are discrepancies in, I think, historical texts, in the sense that some say that, oils or perfumes were the first fragrances created by humankind, and others would say no. Incense is the granddaddy of all fragrances, which predates, oils, scented candles, perfumes, colognes, air fresheners, all of the above. And I like to think it was incense, and because, incense basically comes from raw materials, fragrant materials of the earth, fragrant woods, leaves, flower petals, dried flower petals, of course, resins, which are one of my favorites,
Yeah.
and that sort of thing, roots. And as you mentioned, yes, resins are part of what would be called loose or natural incense, or non-self-combustible incense. So they require a heating surface, or a heating agent in which to utilize them or burn them.
Right.
Yeah. You mentioned that before we went live here, you mentioned that Nag Champa is one of your new favorite incense
I love it.
types. Yeah. And it's actually one of my favorites as far as self-combustible incense, as in incense sticks and cones, meaning they don't require charcoal or any other heating agent. All you do is you light them, and they smolder and burn on their own and release this fragrant smoke on their own. So Nag Champa, I think, is one of my favorites. It hails from India. It's like a staple in India, and incense burning there in their temples and homes. And it consists of a combination of many flowers. To me, it has a very warm, rich vanilla / amber scent. I think you said it smells like amber. That it could very well. I think so.
It does have a bit of an ambery touch, a little vanillic, a little resinous, maybe a little benzoin or labdanum. It smells rather sweet, but it has this sort of earthy, patchouli, spicy opening. I don't know if you would agree with that.
I would totally agree with that. What's hard for me to agree with would be sources that say it's created from kind of like a floral bouquet. I don't really sense anything floral about it, unless there are flowers that, actually there is one flower, now that I think about it, that kind of has a vanilla type of scent. The only one I know is frangipani.
Oh yes, it has like a tropical vibe. Yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah. So yeah, I really like Nag Champa a lot. And if you can reiterate the question, what are some of my favorite? I don't think we can say incenses. What incense types? I guess you can say, right?
Of course, or maybe what are your favorite types of incense to use during meditation? I know recently you and I were watching a video that said you can use different types of incense to, I suppose, manifest different things, or maybe put yourself in a different frame of mind. Would you agree with that? That they all have their own purpose?
I would say for myself, I'm really crazy about any of the pine resins, and there are various species of pine trees. So of course, there are a lot of different kinds of pine resins. One we sampled in a video we did, I can't believe it's 2 years ago, trementine, also called pinon pine. There's also burgundy pitch, my lord, Douglas fir, what else would be? Oh, Sanderac. So there are a lot of different pine resins that I burn quite a bit of, and I find them to be very kind of stimulating and yet tranquilizing or relaxing at the same time, and very conducive to a meditative state. Yeah.
And for the pine, it would be the loose incense variety, right?
Well, I have had pine logs, which are self-combustible, pine bricks, pine cones, pine sticks, or joss sticks, or punks as they call them.
Uh-huh.
But I prefer the resins, yeah, that you would burn over the charcoal. Yeah, pine resins. Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Okay. And how does that differ from something like trementina?
Well, no, trementina is indeed a pine resin.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
That's what I thought.
yeah. I also like to burn, I guess you could say, cousins of this in terms of fragrance, Palo Santo, which many people are into using Palo Santo sticks, even incense, as smudging devices, like as they would sage. But the Palo Santo tree also yields resin. A lot of people don't know that. And you can purchase the resin from various companies, and I have. And it has a wonderful maple syrup smell. And I'm very happy with that, because every time I try to burn actual maple syrup, which is a resin, it's so liquidy and so moist, it tends to put out the charcoal, and it
Oh,
doesn't
wow.
smolder properly. So the next best thing, which almost smells identical to actual maple syrup, is Palo Santo resin. So I love that a lot. I really do. And we both had a mishap recently with rich dark copal. There's several different grades and shades of copal. For some reason that may lose its fragrance over time. But there are different copals that I like. There's a gold copal. Let's see, white copal, gold copal, dark copal, copal negron, also called dark copal, and rich dark copal. So different gradations, or I don't know if they yield from different species of copal per se, but it was used by the Mayans, the Aztecs, and it's in Mexico. It's a very rich, almost pineapple sweet smell. So I love copal. Yeah.
And do the different varieties come from different trees within the same species?
It could be, I would say, the same genus, different species. And
Okay.
in some case, yeah, I would say that. Copal is used in terms of spiritual properties or qualities, to connect you with your soul, to have connectivity with spirits, with spirit guides, to uplift you, to put you in a meditative state. To affect a meditative state, actually. And it can be used for manifestation or law of attraction rituals, right? But I just find pine extremely healing, gratifying. I love the scent. As you once said in a video, it reminds you of a pine forest.
Yeah.
And it reminds you of the winter and the sale of Christmas places that sell Christmas trees in the summertime when you're missing the winter.
That's right. I always
quoting you there. Yeah, yeah.
I've always had fond memories of that. Yeah.
Right, right. So that would be that's Trementina pine. It's definitely very foresty, woodsy, Christmassy. Yeah.
And you know what's interesting as well, with a lot of these raw materials, they'll smell different depending on what part of the world they're harvested from. So for example, you'll have Virginian cedar wood, and then you also have varieties of cedar wood that grow in China. And same thing can be said about vanilla. You have vanilla that comes from Madagascar. It's highly sought after. It's also very expensive as a raw material. And then you'll have other more localized varieties of vanilla that are not necessarily as expensive. And I'm sure you know that a lot of synthetic varieties are being used, ethyl vanillin being one of them, which kind of smells like a deconstructed version of vanilla. Oh yeah, I mean, we can synthesize so many different things with the use of petrochemicals, but that's amazing. It just goes to show that there are so many different varieties of incense that I've yet to use that I'm certainly very interested in using and trying out. And so thank you for all of the ones that you've gifted to me as well.
Oh, likewise. And I love the hojari frankincense. It's amazing. It's really amazing. It's very citrusy. I love it. It's very herbal. It smells very herbal or herbaceous and very citrusy. I love it a lot. Thank you so much.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, as you said, and it's funny because you mentioned synthetics, and it's we excuse me, we can synthesize so many different natural scents from the earth, but at the same time, I know I have noted that there are a lot of synthetic perfumes that do not mimic anything in nature. Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's the other side of the coin, I guess. And I find that interesting as well.
yeah,
So a
like
lot of
aldehydes.
interesting with that,
Like aldehydes, yeah.
right? Right. A lot of scents that I enjoy that I couldn't place in terms of whether they're floral or woodsy or whatever. Turns out they don't occur in nature, but they are synthesized, as you say, with petrochemicals or fatty esters and that sort of thing. So yeah,
Absolutely.
I find that very interesting. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Oh, that's
I
great.
also wonder about the scent of baby powder, and there, a lot of incense companies put out a baby powder incense, and baby powder. When you think of the scent, because of course, talcum powder by itself or cornstarch powder by itself does not have a scent. So they're adding some sort of fragrance to it, obviously, the companies that make it. And I'm thinking it has to be, as you say, aldehydes or synthesized, because I can't think of any scent in nature that reminds me of the scent of fragrance baby powder.
I know what you mean. It's like it's a little floral, it's a little musky, it's a little powdery. I
Yeah, but
can't.
I can't put my finger on it.
The only thing that would come close to it, I would think, is either iris or tuberose, in the sense that it smells a little starchy and a little powdery. But
Right.
yeah,
Vanilla, maybe
baby powder
vanilla.
kind of. Oh yeah, a little bit of vanilla as well. But
Yeah,
yeah, I see what you mean. Baby powder kind of has like its own smell. Yeah,
it
I would
does. It
agree.
really does. To the point where, as I said, when people manufacture incense, when companies manufacture incense, body oils, tea light oils that you put in the oil burners,
Yeah.
and they say this is a baby powder fragrance. So it's almost like baby powder is its own flower or its own unique fragrance. But when I thought about it and I tried to analyze it, I'm like, wait a minute, what is the fragrance of Johnson and Johnson's baby powder, for example?
Sure.
You know,
Sure. Sure.
it's hard to it's hard to pinpoint. It's a very pleasant smell. I like it a lot, but I just don't. It must be synthetic. It has to be a unique synthetic and not really culled from nature, as it were. Yeah,
Mm,
yeah. But yeah, so my favorite incense resins would be any and all of the pine resins. I mean, burgundy pitch, like copal, like the copals, is very pineapple-y, very sweet. It almost smells like pineapple from a can, the canned pineapple. I do also I like gum mastic. Reminds me of celery. It has a celery or celery seed or celery root smell. And yes, that I learned recently from a new favorite YouTuber of mine, whose name is, I think, Odom Nasir, who produces the YouTube channel Witch Please, and it's all about Wiccan rituals and the folklore and the practices behind that.
okay.
And he mentioned that gum mastic. He has a whole resin series, which is great, by the way. I love him. That gum mastic, it can be used in manifestation rituals because it kind of brings things, it coalesces things. It kind of coalesces spirit into physicality and actuality. So it's good for law of attraction. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
And that's a resin that I grew up. So when I was living in Greece, I attended kindergarten, first and second grade in Greece. And when I was younger, I remember experiencing mastic, also known as lentisk, in a few different forms. And so it's used a lot in like Greek desserts. It's used in
Yes,
perfume as well. It's used in incense
my Lord.
varieties.
Right.
Yeah, so it's really versatile. It has a really
That's
pleasant smell to it.
my new YouTube friend Odom Nasir said that he thinks the word mastic comes from the Greek, and this is the first I've heard of this. So apparently you're confirming that. And yes, I know that it's used as like a soup thickener in Egyptian soups or Egyptian foods as well. I see this quite a commonality between Greek and Egyptian culture, which I like a lot. Yeah.
There is, yes. And the name mastic comes from the Greek word mastica, which means
Mastica. Yeah, I was
gum.
going to say gum mastica. Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah, from the Egyptians. Yeah. Yeah,
That's
so
great.
I have a lot of friends who are Greek, like my dear friend yourself, as well as Egyptian friends and friends that speak Arabic and are Muslim, etc. So, yeah, so I can see the connection there. And yes, I've heard of gum mastica. Yes, definitely. Would you agree it has like a celery smell when you burn it?
Yeah, I do agree. Maybe not as herbal or vegetal. Maybe there's also a hint of sweetness in mastic that I don't get in celery, but I could see that being a close comparison for sure.
Right. It's interesting. I learned not to go off on a tangent, but a related tangent. Um, I came across the knowledge recently, within the last couple of years, that actual celery, the scent of celery, is almost like a male pheromone that attracts women. So if men
Really?
eat celery, it's a natural attractant to women. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So it's
I
almost
could
like a male pheromone. It acts as similar to a male pheromone. Yeah.
That's interesting. I can see that being used in a certain law of attraction manifestation ritual. Okay.
Definitely, definitely. I kind of shied away from frankincense for a while. I'm kind of getting back into it. I do like the first, when you first burn it, it gives off a citrusy, like an orangey, lemony scent.
Right.
Then I feel like it sort of, I don't want to say denigrates or degenerates into a musty attic or old picture or picture frame basement or attic smell. And having grown up, not very strictly, but having grown up in a Roman Catholic family, you know that frankincense, along with myrrh and benzoin, are burnt in the Catholic Church, not only during uh, high masses like Christmas Eve and benedictions, but also during funerals. So
Mm,
Catholics do associate the scent of carnations with wakes, and frankincense with wakes and funerals and burials. So it kind of has that funereal connotation to it for Catholics. So that, you know, I kind of, having been through so many personal, deaths in the family and friends and that sort of thing, I kind of shied away from it. But on its own, it's a very, it has a very enigmatic, mysterious type of scent, I think,
right.
frankincense. And it can also be used for healing and uplifting. Yeah. And
That's
it's being
amazing.
used as a natural botanical in medicines for medicinal purposes now, as is myrrh. Myrrh has been used as tooth and gum treatments. And it was used to embalm the ancient Egyptians as well.
That's right. Yes, I actually have a variety of toothpaste here. I believe the brand is Tom's, and it contains myrrh. Yeah, propolis and myrrh, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Propolis, as in
Wow.
bee propolis.
Yeah. Well, I
Wow.
don't want to take up too much of your time.
That's okay. So yeah, it's coming to a close. Yeah, but other than that, I guess in terms of more commercial or self-combustible incense sticks, cones. I don't use cones that often anymore, but I use sticks. Nag Champa would definitely be the favorite. Other than that, I love patchouli. I love patchouli anything. Patchouli spray, body oil, cologne, incense. Yeah, I do love this. It's very earthy. So I like earthy, woodsy smells. I like cinnamon. I also like the mints, peppermint, and spearmint. And in terms of the resins, definitely the pine is my number one winner. That's my number one choice. But thank you for asking. I appreciate it. It's always a pleasure being on your show, on your channel, sir.
Thank you so much, and I really appreciate all of the valuable insight. It means a lot. Thank you for being a guest on the channel.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you, Stephen. See you soon.
All right, I appreciate that. Thank you to everybody watching at home. If you took something of value from this video, please subscribe. We love you all, and we'll see you in the next episode.
I want to say to your YouTubers and to you as well, feel free to have me back anytime.
Let's do that. We'll arrange something.
Thank you.
All right, Lewis. Bye.
Thank you, Steve. Bye-bye.